So I'm in search of ideas for this week's video, and it occurs to me that I have both a plethora of ideas and none at all. And I think one of the ultimate conflicts of a creative person is trying to find that idea, coming up with the idea of whatever it is that I want to make. Sometimes the idea just happens perfectly naturally, and then other times you have to really work at it. And in this video, I'm having to work at it a little bit. When I'm in need of ideas, I refer back to pocket notebooks of old. Alright, so we're gonna start looking through the first one. Usually I don't need to go back this far, but you never know. Sometimes I'll find a diamond in the rough. I flip through and find each individual idea I've written down in the past. Then, I transfer the idea from an older book to my current one. All nice and neat, in one place, for easy consumption. If I'm too picky when searching for ideas, my job is made infinitely more difficult. Who am I to judge if an idea is good or bad? Just because I don't like the idea for this week's video, doesn't mean I won't like it next week. Just because I don't like the idea now, doesn't mean I never will. Sometimes, an idea just isn't ready yet. I've had plenty of ideas where I've had to wait to make the idea because whatever I want to make the video about hasn't happened yet. I'll write the idea down, and then I don't get to make it until a certain time because that idea is not ready. This is one of those ideas where I started writing the idea a month before I actually made the video. So I was coming up with like the theme and all that, and I was working towards that idea even though I wasn't going to be able to make the video for a month. So writing the idea doesn't always mean you have to use it right away. Like you could write an idea and just have it stashed away just in case, you know. So here's a section. This is in my third book where I have a list right here written out so far. Like this is, you know, just a quarter of the way through the book or whatever, but I started, you know, I had a bunch of pages written and I wrote a list of all the ideas that I had so far to that point, because in this moment writing this, I needed to find some ideas to make that week's video or whatever. So I just went back through all that I had written so far in this book and then just brought it all to one section. That way I can read it all in one spot instead of having to flip back through individually and just pick and choose and find stuff. Instead of having to dig through and find everything, I have it all in one spot. This right here's a cool idea. It's not a video idea necessarily, although it could be. I just wrote big clipboard. I have a big clipboard from when I was in college for art. Big clipboard plus green poster board equals makeshift green screen. So like green screen, but on a budget. So I'll try that out in this video, I think, because that sounds kind of fun. Then I'll see if it works. Oh, and here's a thing too. This is something I would do every now and again. This is titled Boom Bam Video Ideas in 1 minute. So I gave myself a 1 minute timer and I just wrote as many ideas as I come up with, good, bad, or indifferent. I did not care. The point was to get as many quantity ideas on the page as I could. This is another thing I would do from time to time, is I would write a list of just one word, and then somehow I would relate that word to some kind of story I would tell. It would just be one word ideas. Here's something. I read this in this book, and it says, be brave enough to make mistakes, and lots of them. I think that's got a lot to do with what I'm talking about in this video. When you're writing, you're not always going to do it perfectly. You're not always going to come up with the good ideas right away. But by being okay with making mistakes, or what seem to be mistakes, then writing, I feel like, comes a lot easier because you can kind of just go past those. Instead of dwelling on your bad ideas, you just write it down, complete the idea, and then that's that, and you move on. And here is the official Vlogmas ideas list. So I wrote down, what, like 30 ideas or something. What's funny about this list, and that lends itself to this story, is I only used about half of these ideas. Like, a lot of the ideas I did during Vlogmas, I came up with during Vlogmas. I didn't actually use most of this list, but I wrote it all down. That's the trick. Whether or not I thought it was a good idea, I made sure and wrote it down. That way I at least had it. Here's a good example of something I do not like, a bad idea that I had written down. So at one point I thought about doing daily vlogs in February for my birth month. Shortly after I wrote this, I decided to absolutely not do that because I realized that it was not going to do any good and it would have hurt more than it would have helped. But I wrote the idea down anyway because I had thought about it. It was something that I was going to consider. So in order to respect the idea, I wrote it down just in case, just because you never know. Here's the idea of, this is the original idea for the pocket notebook bookcase. I just wanted to build a box for them, but obviously through over time it evolved. But having initially written it down is the seed. I wrote this, I don't know, probably October maybe? September, October. This right here. This is this video. Video about video ideating. That's what you're watching right now. So, my pocket notebook philosophy is more of a how than a what. It's not about the gear, right? Like the pen or the notebook or the paper or whatever. But it's more of how I get my ideas down. And obviously this works for me, but it may not work for everyone. But my overarching philosophy when it comes to writing in my pocket notebook, ideating, being creative in general, is just write it all. Write everything. You know, don't filter, don't try and edit as I go, don't overthink it, don't think too much about what I'm writing, just write it. If there's something that I don't like, that's fine. Finish the idea and move on. A huge part of my philosophy is to never completely eliminate an idea from existence. So if I start writing something down that I don't really like, finish the thought. Don't erase it, because then that seed of the idea is gone forever. And, you know, maybe you'll remember it, maybe I'll remember it, but I can't guarantee that. So, finishing every idea, whether I like it or not, is useful because one day when I need an idea, like today, if I need an idea for a video, I can always go back and find it. And maybe when I wrote down this idea, whatever idea it is, maybe I didn't like it then, but maybe when I look back on it, it's exactly what I needed.